So I'm doing a shoot downtown today, and downtown Charleston, and it's kind of a 2-day thing, and today's just kind of like there's an event going on this weekend. So today I'm just getting like a time lapse and just some just B-roll like setup stuff. So I'm actually gonna take this out for a spin and shoot everything in Blackmagic RAW. And I know I said in the past that I hate using external batteries, but I need this because I'm not gonna be around power anywhere. So I think this is what I'm gonna be bringing. Obviously pocket camera, bringing the Atomos Ninja 5 because I'm gonna be out bright sunlight, so definitely need daylight viewable monitor. And then Tokine 11-16 for some wide shots, 18-35 because that lens is awesome. And then 24-105 to just kind of get some stabilized shots, and it's got IS, just a great lens. And I got the 16-35 on here in case I need a wider shot with IS for maybe handheld stuff. For tomorrow, I am gonna bring the C200 because there is just a lot of run and gun, fast-paced type shooting. So I just prefer that camera for that type of work. Right tool for the right job, right? I just got here. The elevator's broken, and I'm like on the top floor. So, kind of glad that I packed light today, relatively. I actually used to work right around the corner at this visitor center here. Might even try to stop in if I'm there. Oh, I can cut through this corner. So this event is in Charleston. It's like I think it's the Food and Wine Festival. It's pretty popular, sorry for the noise. Okay, so I've just got the time lapse getting set up here. So I'm just kind of getting a general picture of this whole thing. And then, yeah, I think we're just gonna get some B-roll shots now. So I figured I'd show y'all kind of what I've been using today to get some of these shots. I ended up just keeping this on the entire time, 24-105. I'm actually running the Ninja 5, and I'm actually using a SSD drive as well because it just triggers the record anyways. So yeah, that's the setup. Like I said, I just kind of strapped this battery to the tripod leg because I didn't really want to have to deal with taking this on and off and switching out batteries, and I'm not in a super fast running gun type situation where I need to be handheld a lot. So yeah, I did that, and I've had that battery for a really long time for a light. And then I'm just using this little guy right here, just right out of the D tap here, and then I would plug it in here, and obviously HDMI, but I've kind of started taking the rig down already. Then I just got it here on this little slider guy right here, so it's like 40 or 50 bucks on Amazon. And then the not 40 and $50 tripod. So I got the 502 head on the 055 tripod sticks. So I'm just gonna tear this down. Pretty much done for the day. I don't really have much else that I can get today. It's kind of set up. Tomorrow is kind of the game day. I just came out here to get a couple establishing shots and stuff before everything was set up. Basically everything I shot was in ISO 400. And the reason why I shot at ISO 400 to begin with is because it was super bright, sunny out, and really, really high contrasty type shooting situations. So you want to stick to that native ISO setting. I keep saying ISO, but I think it actually is ISO. You want to stick at that native ISO setting to maximize your dynamic range, and especially in the lower ISO circuitry at 400, it protects more of the highlights. So that's why I shot in ISO 400 the entire time. Being that it was so bright outside, I just slapped on an ND filter, a variable ND filter, and then actually a UV IR cut filter behind that, just so I could avoid any kind of IR pollution. If you're not familiar with what IR pollution is, basically when you start adding heavy ND to the image, the IR pollution starts getting more pronounced. I'm not sure really why the science behind it, but it gets really bad, and essentially with like a black shirt especially, your shirt becomes like brownish, magenta-ish because of the IR pollution. We can't see that in our eyes, but the way that camera sensors interpret colors and everything, IR pollution, it's something that the camera sensor actually sees, and that's why it pollutes the image. The IR pollutes the image, and it's mostly noticeable in like black shirts and stuff like that. Okay, so here we are up in the studio, which just sounds way cooler than the spare room, so we're gonna call it the studio. So anyways, we've got the clips in DaVinci Resolve, and I figured I'd just kind of take a look at the clips. This is the first time I'm looking at the clips as well, and we'll just kind of look through grading a couple of the different clips, what LUTs I like to use, and anything like that. So let's go ahead and jump into DaVinci Resolve. So the first thing I do when I'm editing any kind of raw video format, what I'm going to do is change this to clip instead of project here in this camera raw setting, and that opens up all the settings to change your ISO and change your white balance, highlight recovery, all that kind of stuff. Because beforehand you could see that all this is grayed out, and even if you go to Blackmagic or all default, I don't know why it changes the exposure. For some reason it does that, but you have to go to clip to open up all the full controls of camera raw. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to highlight all the other clips. So just scroll down, hold the shift key and hit the last clip, and then use the settings. And then what that does is that applies it to all the clips, so we are good to go there. So depending on the clip and depending on the exposure, all that kind of stuff, one of the first things I will do is I will add a serial node, and on the second one I'll go ahead and add a LUT. And my favorite LUT with this Blackmagic Raw, I don't know why, but it's the Airy Log C Direct 709, and obviously right here it looks way overexposed, and the only reason why it looks overexposed is it's just adding a ton of contrast and all that stuff, but we can definitely recover all that here in the camera raw settings. So if you look over here at the waveform down at the bottom right, you can see everything's hanging up to the top of this right here, and this little line just here is coinciding with the church steeple. So we can do this a couple of ways. We can change the ISO down to 100, or we can bring the exposure slider down, and this is what I typically like to do. This isn't the only way you can do it, but for some reason I just like sticking with the exposure. I've never really played around with these ISO settings before. Maybe I should. So we'll bring that down 2 stops, and that is one of the most incredible things about recording in a raw video format is you have so much data and so much information in the file that you're able to recover this. So we brought this exposure down by 2 stops after applying a LUT, and we are still able to have all the information there in it. So the next clip I want to do is I want to find a clip that looks overexposed in the highlights and see how much we can recover just using the camera raw settings. So here's a clip that you can see all the highlights and everything in this were completely blown out on the top of the tents, and you can see that the information, and then we can verify this right here on the scope, just at the bottom or at the top of this waveform right here. You can see that white line across the entire top. And obviously that's blown out, and if you had shot this on a 5D or some kind of DSLR, this image would be gone and none of that would be recoverable. So we're just going to do the same thing that we did last time, add a serial node, and we'll just go ahead and add a LUT. So go back to the first node, and we're going to come over here and we're going to bring this exposure down, see what we can recover. Here you can still see this line right here at the very top, which is indicating basically this entire line right here is overexposure. But if we click this highlight recovery button, boom, you can see all that information has been brought back. So you can see the details here in the tent. If we toggle it on and off, you can see that it's just, right now it's just this like really blown out white kind of pasty looking tent with no details. Hit that highlight recovery button, and then you can start seeing details pop in and out. If you've way overexposed the image sensor, you're still not going to be able to recover everything, but it still does a really good job of recovering. And this is really impressive that it can recover all this, because you can still see the shadow detail here. There's still a ton of detail here down here in the shadows. And so the next thing we can do is we can come over here, we can add another node. Then we'll come over to the colors, and then we can go to this log tab, and then we can kind of like boost the, play with the midtones a little bit. And I'm using the log tab and the color wheels because it just gives you a little bit more finer control over the image. Same with the highlights, you can really start playing around with those. So if we just toggle this on and off, you can just see that it adds a little bit more contrast, especially here with these little signs. And even on his jacket pops a little bit more. And then overall it looks like the image is a little too warm, so maybe we can bring it down. And then I'm adding another node, and in this node, if I'm doing any kind of other work with the color wheels, I'll actually like to do the color in a separate node, so then it's just a quick way for me to just kind of toggle on and off. And again, this isn't the be-all end-all. This is just kind of the way that I've liked using the serial nodes in Resolve. So here, just making like subtle changes to the colors and the shadows. So if we turn all these off, we can kind of see the progression. So here with the camera raw settings adjusted, super flat image. Here we've thrown on the area log C LUT, which honestly that in and of itself looks really, really good. And then from here it's just adding just a little bit more contrast. I mean, I like it a little bit more, just kind of makes everything pop a little bit more, especially in the jacket, along this fence line and these little signs. And then here, you just toggle on and off, and it just adds a little bit of blue tones to the shadows. Kind of gives that orange and teal look, but nothing overboard. And actually, I might even dial this back just a little bit. Well guys, I know that was kind of long and drawn out. If you stayed to the very end, thank you for sticking around. And if you found it useful or helpful, definitely give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment below if you have any questions about any of this. I can definitely run out, try to get a test for you, or maybe answer a question if you have anything. If you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Peace.